The NHL trade deadline has come to a close, and for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they make minimal moves. Only one on deadline day, getting Connor Dewar from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Dmitry Ovechkinov. I probably butchered that a little bit, and was it a 4th round pick or something like that to the Minnesota Wild? I think it was in 2026. Whatever. We'll talk about that in a second, I guess. But we're here to break down the entire trade deadline for the Leafs only. Okay? So we'll start with what happened about a week ago. And not the song. Ilya Lyubushkin becomes a Leaf. And the Ducks get a 3rd round pick. They retain 50% of the contract. And the Carolina Hurricanes get a 6th round pick for getting another 25%. So the Leafs only have to pay Ilya Lyubushkin under $750,000. So, great. That's one deal done. You liked Boosh. We liked getting him back. It was good and entertaining. Then, a trade comes down, a couple days ago, or yesterday? No, yesterday, excuse me. That the Leafs go out there and bring Joel Edmundson from the Washington Capitals, 6'5", 220 big fella, in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th round pick. The 3rd, I believe, I think they both go to the Washington Capitals because they are retaining 50% of his cap hit, which is $875,000 now after the 50%. So you're paying him under $1 million. And this is where the Leafs are at, right? Where they had to get teams to eat money. So with that being the case, you trade draft capital to get that because you can't afford it otherwise. And then the Connor Dewar stuff, we talked about that briefly, whatever. And then Brad Treliving, just after the trade deadline is over, in sports, you have to hear from the general manager. They talk about the vision, they talk about all that stuff. Brad Treliving, Jonas Siegel posted this on Twitter. Brad Treliving said this, and I quote, "We tried to make some moves to address certain areas, but at the end of the day, a lot of the answers are going to come from the guys that are in the room." End quote. What he is basically telling me right there is we tried to make some moves and address some areas, but we don't have the resources. Like, sure, we'd love to go after, I don't know, people were getting all frisky for Matt Dumba, and people are looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning and being like, well, they only had to trade a 5th. Yeah, because they didn't have to retain any money. Right? And even if Matt Dumba came in, you're not getting him for cheap. And guess what? You know why they had to retain all these guys? You know why they sent Matthew Nyes down to the AHL? Because they had to clear some money. They're barely under the cap. Shout out Vegas for doing what they've done. Here's LTIR for Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. We're going to get Jake Gensel and all these big names. It's such a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. So the Leafs are barely there. They don't have the assets. So what Brad's telling them is that the guys in this room, the talent of these guys in the room, the Bertuzzis, the Domies, obviously the core 4, or core 5, if you want to add Morgan Riley into that. It's up to those guys what this team does. And he's being blatantly honest there. We don't have the resources. I got you some defensive help. But you guys are the ones that are going to stir the drink and take us where we want to go. And if you don't, well, it's going to be the same story at the end in April and May. And I get it. And I appreciate the honesty from Brad Treliving, especially in his first year with the Leafs. Like, think about it. If you're a general manager and you take over a team for the first time, for his very first year, are you expecting yourself to trade away every sort of future asset you have for a win right this second move? No, of course not. He signed to be the Leafs general manager because he wants to be here for a long time. So in order to do that, you got to find a way to balance yourself. So the Leafs still have Timothy Liljegren. They still have Nick Robertson. They still have their first round pick. They still have Minton. They still have Cowan. They still have all that. Could it be a summer deal? Maybe. But for right now, I get Brad Treliving's mindset. And he's being honest. What have we talked about in the 2 Boston games? Your stars didn't show up. Sure, Marner scored a goal. Yeah, sure. Stars didn't show up. And that's the problem. Because those are the guys that are going to make this team go where they want to go. And the fact that you scored 2 goals total against the Boston Bruins, it's not good enough. And Brad Treliving's coming out here saying, look, we don't have the assets. We don't have the cap space. And he's kind of given a shot at the players, maybe not, maybe indirectly, but you could think of it as, hey, we don't have the cap space because you guys are eating the whole damn thing up, so I can't make any moves. So it's up to you guys to go win. And if you don't, well, it's on you. And I get it, Brad. I do. So, do I think that the Leafs did great at the deadline? No, not in particular. Could the Leafs sign Chris Tanev in the offseason because he's going to be a rental in Dallas? Sure. It's quite possible. Brody's going to be off the books. You know, Samsonov, whether he's here back or not, I don't know, but he's off the books if he's not. It's going to be interesting. You got some center depth in Connor Dewar. You got 2 defensemen, defensive guys. They're not going to give you snot offensively. But Joel Edmundson will beat the crap out of somebody in front of your own net. Lyubushkin will lay the lumber, lay the body, block shots a ton. Good. Now go out there and do it. Like, let's be honest, Leaf fans. We're not the favorite wherever we go now. You play the Bruins, you play the Panthers, you're not the favorite. Hell, you somehow fall into a wild card spot and you play the Rangers, you are not the favorite. So go out there and make it happen. Do I believe in this? No. I'm going to be straight up. I don't. What have they shown us to make us believe in them? Other than winning in 6 games against the Lightning last year. What have they done? Nothing. So go out there and not only prove it to us, prove it to yourselves and your management that you can do it. And I don't mean the final 20 games of the season. I mean in round 1 of game 1 against either Boston or Florida. You're going to be the underdog by a good margin. Go for an upset because it's what's going to have to happen. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. All right, so you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, I didn't expect it to go this long, but if you enjoyed the video and, are underwhelmed by the deadline, because you probably are, and like what Brad Treliving had to say, because honestly, I like it. I do. I don't like the Ross Atkins robot answers. You didn't get that from Brad. You got straight up. And I like it. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Twitter, Discord, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff is down below. So follow up there if you guys have not done so already. And I'll talk to you guys Jay's Edition Sunday, recapping this past week's games. They won again today. As for the Raptors, they're back in action tomorrow in Portland against the Blazers, 10 p.m. tip-off there. And as for the Leafs, they're back in action tomorrow? Hold on a minute. Kind of like zoned myself out of the Leafs after that Boston game when I was at the 9:05 game. Just had to zone myself out of that because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. Oh, Saturday against Montreal, right? 7 o'clock, puck drop at the Bell Center. Show up. That's all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And the video, just the video. Just the video. We'll talk to you guys then.